question that I am quite frequently asked is, what do I look for in a swingers club? What makes some clubs stand out and some clubs not? What's the difference between a bad swingers club and a good one? And sometimes, if you've never been in that environment, but you're curious about it, or perhaps you're kind of looking for a club to go to and you're not sure, it can be really hard to find information about what to expect. And that is why I decided, as part of my exploration into ethical non-monogamy and the swinger lifestyle, one of the things I decided to do is start reviewing swing clubs. So if you're not familiar with my work, you can find my club reviews on my site, ThisKindaGirl.co.uk. My name is Rosie Kay, and I'm an ethical non-monogamy and swinger lifestyle coach for couples and singles who want to get involved in the swinger lifestyle. Over on my blog site, ThisKindaGirl.co.uk, I dive in deep to the world of ethical non-monogamy, swinging, and all things swinger lifestyle to bring you guys and girls the very best information and club reviews out there. So, in today's video, I wanted to talk about what do I look for in a swingers club when I do my reviews. Because over the last few years, I have been traveling up and down the UK, reviewing swing clubs, visiting them, writing about them, talking about them, sharing about them, and what I found. And one question I'm frequently asked is kind of what do I judge them on? So the first thing that I always do is look at their website, look at their social media, look at their contact details, because how frequently events are added and how frequently a website or social media is updated, how frequently they both post content, how responsive somebody is quite a good indication of the kind of what you're going to receive at the club. Are they going to be on hand to kind of help you out? Is somebody going to be there if you email them prior to the event? If you call the number, are they going to respond? If you send a DM on social media, are they going to respond? Now, if a club or event has kind of old events listed that they haven't removed from their website, or like past events, and they're not labeled as past events, it just says like events, you know, November 2022 or, you know, Christmas 21 or whatever, that's a pretty good indicator. And although they may still be up and running the club, it's a pretty good indication that they don't invest an awful lot of time and effort into maintaining their website, which when as a potential guest, as a consumer, we're looking at that, it can immediately kind of breed mistrust, because you're thinking, well, that's not very relevant, that's not very up to date. Now, they may have great pictures on there and they may have events listed, but there's nothing current. And we all know that these days we base our level of interest on something by reading reviews, by looking at what's happened. Well, they were there last month, they were there, you know, these events happened a few weeks ago, and that's what we base it on. So sometimes looking how kind of frequently things are updated, how, you know, whether they add things to their calendar of events frequently, whether they're constantly putting new things like that, is a pretty good level of kind of the standard of the club. Now, not all, this isn't a kind of a general rule, but it is something which I've noticed, because not all clubs have an awful lot of social media. And certainly the ones which are, you know, smaller establishments, or, you know, don't have a massive team behind them, perhaps they don't have the resources or the time to do that. But still, very often, if you call up a club or you know, get in contact with whoever, if they're still serious about it, they should be able to answer the phone or answer your questions. So that's always something to kind of bear in mind when you're looking. Again, when I'm actually visiting a club, I always look for other directions as to how to find it. Do the directions that are on the site or on social media correspond with actually where they are, you know, in the location? Because the amount of times I've been to a club and it's been quite hard to find. Now, I understand that swinger clubs parties are sometimes tucked away. You know, they're not out on the high street. There's a reason for that. But if they are tucked away, how easy is it for people to find, especially as a single woman? How easy is it for, you know, people on their own visiting? And if you haven't driven to that club, again, how easy for you to find getting out of a taxi? Are you going to be, or out of an Uber, are you going to kind of be left in the middle of nowhere, not sure where to go? Sometimes I've been to clubs and events where the actual location isn't revealed until like the day of the event. Now, some people really enjoy this because it does add to that like exclusive feel, and it is, you know, especially for like warehouse type parties or BDSM style events, this can be quite popular. But that's not always a great idea, because the reality is you can have like, you know, 50, 60 people wandering around going, well, where is it, you know, in the middle of a winter's night, which is what happened to me a while ago. Not a great impression, not a great start. But then on the flip side, clubs don't always openly advertise where they are. Sometimes they will have an address or a postcode, or sometimes they will send you the address when you've kind of made your membership or when you've bought your tickets. But again, if the contact number of the person or the email or the DMs are open or whatever, you should be able to get in contact with people and find out more information about how to get there. So again, this is always something I look for. How welcoming are the hosts? Again, I've been to clubs and events where I've kind of gone in, and it's not that I get upset when there's nobody there to like meet me because of who I am. It's more like I put myself in the mindset of somebody who's never been to a club and how I would feel walking in if there's nobody to reassure you. That for me is the most worrying thing. Now it's very obvious when I walk into a club that I'm very confident, you know, but I still sometimes feel a bit apprehensive, and sometimes if people don't know who I am, then I'll kind of go, oh, you know, it's my first time, because it's kind of interesting to see the reception you get. If the host or the security or the manager or somebody isn't there to welcome you, and to put your mind at ease and to kind of reassure you, this for me is quite a, you know, it's a red flag, because of the nature of the environment. And if it is your first time in a club, that in itself is instantly going to put you off, in my opinion, if you just kind of left your own devices. So again, another thing I always look for is how welcoming are the people in there. Again, security, another thing which features quite heavily in my reviews. I always talk about security, whether they've got security on the door, whether there's people walking around the club, because again, as a single woman visiting somewhere, and especially as a single woman, if you're going to an area that you've never been before, you've never been to that club, safety should always be a priority. How safety conscious are the organisers? Do they have security? Are they checking people? Are they checking ID? Are they checking memberships? Are they asking for names? What's the, you know, what's the protocol? Especially if there's parties where there's, you know, single guys, couples, and single women. Are they checking it for everybody? Is it just only certain groups are they checking? So again, I'm always very conscious of this. And kind of finding out, you know, what the process is that a club follows. Another one I've got here, I'm just looking at my notes, is what facilities does a club have? Have they invested their time and money into having a range of facilities? Do they keep them clean? Are there kind of different things for different types of people? Are they got BDSM equipment? Have they got a dungeon? Have they got orgy rooms? Have they got private play rooms? Are they maintained? Have they got lockable doors in there? Have they got glory holes? Because again, people go to different clubs for different things. There are some clubs which are really heavily kind of influenced by the BDSM scene, and there's some clubs which have none of that equipment at all. And obviously if you're interested in that, then it will be a waste of time for you to go to one which doesn't have a dungeon. Some clubs have like hot tubs and jacuzzis because their customers are really like this. So again, I always have a good look at the facilities. Now, it doesn't mean if they haven't got a hot tub or they haven't got a dungeon, it doesn't mean it's a bad club. And often, you know, sometimes due to the limitations a business may face, they may not have the space to have one of those things installed. They may not, their customers may not enjoy that. They may not have the demand for it. So again, it all kind of depends on the club, the location, and the customers who go. But whatever facilities they do have, are they maintained regularly? Are they clean? Are they tidy? How are people using them? You know, and what is that they enjoy essentially. So that's always something I look for. And again, another kind of way to look at it is a club may not have BDSM equipment, or it may not have a hot tub, but what it may have is lots of private couples playrooms, may have lots of private places. It may have like private, you know, couples only, which suggests to me that club is heavily dominated by couples wanting to play with other couples. And just because a club doesn't have certain things doesn't mean that what they have, you know, it should still be maintained well. It should still be looked after. So again, this is something I always look at. Another thing people always ask me, they always want to know, is what are the like toilets and changing facilities like. This is something I always check out and I always talk about because there's that amount of times people ask me. So I always check that out as well, because it is like quite a good indicator of the level of cleanliness and also attention that people put into the club. Do they have people, you know, do they have staff who go around and check these facilities regularly? Are they, you know, male and female toilets? Are they gender neutral toilets? Are there mixed changing rooms? Are there women's and men's? Is it couples? These are all things which people want to know. Can people get changed at a club? Are there lockers? What are the changing rooms like? Do they feel safe getting changed in there? Are they quite sumptuous? Are they more you know, practical? These are all questions which people ask me. So again, this is something I always look at. And the last thing I always look at, or two of the last things I always kind of judge a club on, is how relaxed people are. Now, this isn't kind of like how they're swinging and what they're enjoying and what they're doing, because we're all there for different reasons and we're all on different journeys. But what I look for is, are people able to converse with each other? Are people comfortable enough to just talk to each other? Because if there's lots of people sat there on their own or in their couple and they're not really conversing and they're not enjoying and they're not being sociable, and this is a general you know, out of 30 people or out of 50 people 80% are like that, then that tells me that, you know, something's not quite right there, and therefore people don't feel relaxed. Because if they don't feel relaxed to talk to each other and interact and be sociable, then chances are they're not going to be very relaxed to do anything else. Whereas if there's lots of people kind of mixing and mingling and chatting and relaxing, then that shows to me that although they may not all be getting down to it and all may not be there for the same reasons, they all feel relaxed enough to be able to enjoy the atmosphere. So this again is a really good indicator. So people's behavior and how they're interacting and what it is they're doing, regardless of whether they're having sex or not, is a really good indicator for me of how people feel when they are in that space. Because again, if you don't feel comfortable enough to be able to talk to other people in that environment, that's a pretty good indication of, you know, the kind of the atmosphere that a club has created. I hope that makes sense. So they're the things that I look for when I review my swinger clubs. If you'd like to find out about the clubs that I visited, and you'd like to find out what I get up to behind the scenes and the parties I've been to and how I like to play, you can do. You can visit my site, ThisKindaGirl.co.uk, and you can join my TKG club community, where I share all of my most exciting, somewhat explicit and exclusive members only content. My TKG club community is not only that, it's also a coaching community, and it's one of the best places where you can start swinging successfully, because it's where I share my very best content. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Next time I'm going to be making a video about what makes a swingers club great, and I shall see you all next time. Bye.